शलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Manah Shiksha series every Friday, Saturday and Sunday morning. Yesterday we completed the discussion on the commentary for verse 1 of Manah Shiksha by Shivram Swami Maharaj. So today we will begin the commentary by Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. But I will just recap the whole discussion, what we had, the main important themes in Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary. Maharaj addresses that what happens with the development of faith. There is attraction to Guru, Goshte, Goshtaleshu, Sujane, Bhusuragana, Swamantre, Srinamne, Vraja, Nava, Yuva, Dvanda, Sharanya. These 8 things we should develop attraction for. This faith has different levels of development. We saw there is beginning level, and then there is Purna Shraddha, and then there is Prauda Shraddha or mature faith. And at this stage, there is Raganuga Bhakti practice. At this stage, there is practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. At this stage, there is mixed Bhakti. We have very literal attraction for Guru, for Vrindavan. But at this stage, the attraction goes deeper. And at this stage, the attraction is the deepest. And that is when Manah Shiksha instructions are most relevant. And we should develop attraction for Swamantre Srinamne, and then Guru Goshte Goshtaleshu. And Maharaj says that there are 4 questions which are answered in this first verse. And he goes into those 4 questions and the answers in summary and detail. And what is someone's duty? To take shelter of Krishna. How do I do that? By developing love. And how do I develop this love? And is that love exclusive? And to develop love, We have to give up pride. So this becomes the main theme. Sadadambam hitva. So to develop, to take shelter means to surrender, and surrender means to love. And love we should offer to Sri Sri Radha Krishna. It is not just love, it is redeveloping that love. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Abo Sadhyanay. And this love can be developed by spiritual attachment, by practicing sadhana, bhakti. And again, Maharaj comes to the point of we have to give up that pride. And there are these elements of pride in the form of pretense, deceit, arrogance, ignorance. So these 6 elements of pride and the demons, they represent in Krishna Lila. So how by reading Krishna Lila, we become free from all these elements was what we discussed in the last class. And yesterday's class, once we give up that pride, then what do we do positively? Kurum Ratim Apurvam Atitaram. Apurvam and Atitaram. That attraction is unprecedented and excessive. Extraordinary attachment, Rati, attraction. So Kurum Ratim Apurvam Atitaram to Guru, to Goshte, Goshtaleshu Sujane Bhusuragane, and then Swamantre, Shri Namne, and then Vraja Nava Yuvadvanda Sharane is not discussed. But to do that, you have to, beseech the mind, fall at the feet of the mind and beg him for this type of service. And this service is the highest service of the Manjari service, which we discussed yesterday, that Tat Tad Bhavichatma. And this is very exalted for us to even think about. But we can experience this in our preaching. As new devotees join, and then they take up to Krishna consciousness. And the preacher, the happiness he feels, the pleasure he feels that new devotees are engaged in the service of the lordships. And that happiness is something which we can relate to Tat Tat Bhava Ichatma. So that is what, is what Mahaprabhu has come to give us. Apurvam Atitaram. Never heard before, never given before, never bestowed before. Anarpitam Charim Chirat. Karuna Avatirna Kalu. Na Arpitam. So this is where we ended our discussion. And we now begin with Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary. Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary is very deep and insightful, and it gives a much deeper understanding of verse 1. And we will now go systematically into Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary. So paragraphs 1 to 5, Manah Shiksha teaches to develop Rag for Vraja, Raja, Radha, Krishna. So Manah Shiksha is teaching us how to develop attachment or spontaneous attraction to Vraja, Radha, Krishna. That's the theme. Okay, so let's begin. Paragraph 1. Manah Shiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami is comprised of 12 instructions to the mind. Manah Shiksha. The Shiksha is given to one's own mind. The author makes the point right at the beginning of these instructions that at the beginning of these instructions are meant to help us to serve Krishna based on spontaneity by the use of the term rag, attachment. So we have to develop deep rag, attachment. This is not Marathi rag, which means anger. It means attachment. Now, where in the first verse of Manah Shiksha is the author, Raghunath Das Goswami, making the point that we should develop a rag for, Krishna's service? Where it is mentioned? In which part of the verse it is mentioned? Uh, I think devotees are still not familiar with the verse. So I will once again show the verse. But I would like to know from the devotees where in the verse 1 does Manashiksha say that we should develop rag, where it is mentioned. Anyone would like to try? This is the verse. Where is the author Raghunath Das Goswami saying that we should develop rag? 1, 2. 2 hands have been raised. 3 hands. Okay. Ras Parani Mataji? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it says, please develop kuru, unprecedented and excessive attachment.
Which is that exact word attachment here? Unprecedented. Apurvam.
Apurva sadamam hitva kuru ratim.
So which is that word, term, attachment?
Ratim apurvam atitaram is that attachment, and kuru means unprecedented and excessive.
No, ratim is that attachment. Kuru means you should do. Kuru means to do, to do actions. Ratim is that attachment, and that kind of rati, what should be? It warm, unprecedented. It is excessive. So ratim is that actual term. Ratim. Rati is attraction. We discussed about different meanings of the word rati. So this is where the author makes a point right in the beginning. So right now, in the conditioned state, the mind also has attachment and aversion. And we should become free from that. Raga dveshu vimuktestu vishayan indriyascharan atma vasher vidhi atma prasadam adigacchati. So Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, verse, I don't recollect the verse number. Let me find out. It is, I think, Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu Vishayan Indriyascharan Atma Vasher Vidhi Atma Prasadam Adigacchati. Yes, 64. I hope I'm sharing the screen. Okay, let me share. Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu Vishayan Indriyascharan Atma Vasher Vidhi Atma Prasadam Adigacchati. Raga here is attachment. Now, here the attachment is material attachment of the mind. We are attached to sense objects, which we like, and we are averse to sense objects, which we don't like. One has to become free from it. That is the Vishayan. Vishaya and Vishayan, the sense objects. Indriya, the senses and the sense objects. They act. Charan. How? Atma Vishaya, Vidhi Atma, by following the regulated freedom. One who follows regulated freedom. So regulation is meant to free us from bondage. Prasadam is mercy. One attains mercy. So one should practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And with the practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we regulate our senses. And when the senses get purified, then the senses are naturally attracted to the spiritual sense objects. So that's where Rag begins, Raganuga Bhakti begins. Everything we are doing should be based on our heartfelt aspiration, not on some heartless planning for gain, but on an emotional impulse. So Raga is something bhav, based on bhavana. So it should be very heartfelt aspiration, not just, heartless planning for gain. This is the point. Now, Maharaj is going to, further elaborate. Paragraph 2. He further explains how to form such a attachment. Raghunath Das Goswami offers invaluable instructions on how to acquire taste in devotional service. What should the principles of our service be, and what should be happening in our hearts for us to develop this taste? So, what are the principles in our service, and what is happening internally? So, bhakti begins with all external activities of the senses, and internally there is transformation happening in the heart. But as we practice devotion, the external activities are there, but now we have to work more internally, deeply from the heart. We have to chant from the heart, not just the vibration vibrating from the tongue. So, in order to develop taste, what is happening in our hearts, the anarthas which are there, which are troubling, we need to work on them. So that is required for us to really go to higher levels, and we need to develop that taste. So this is the point Raghunath Das Goswami is addressing for the internal purification of the anarthas. Paragraph 3. We need an attachment. In the beginning, when we take to devotional service, we develop a taste for it. Everything is new and unusual. This novelty thrills us and makes our practice inspirational. But then our practice sometimes becomes a dreary routine, because we have already learned how to put on a dhoti and apply tilak. So it becomes a more routine and a more mechanical activity. So that's why as we practice, we should go deeper into our even external practice of applying tilak. Why we are decorating our body, what are the meanings of these mantras. Om Narayanama, Om Keshavana. One should chant these mantras with feeling and devotion. Otherwise, it becomes a routine activity. But initially, because it is newfound, it is very inspirational. Paragraph 4. Lord Chaitanya said, the reason he appeared is that the whole world is following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So practicing bhakti according to rules and regulations is called as Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is found in all the 4 sampradayas. They do Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, then there is Vaidhi Prem they attain in Vaikuntha. But only in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, there is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and then what begins is the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And with Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, we get Prem, Golok Prem. Otherwise, the whole world follows Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Everyone follows some principles out of fear. We think if I do it, I will be better off than if I don't do it. So all this is based on Vidhi. That's what the point Maharaj is making. Now, paragraphs 6, not 6, it is, sorry, 5 actually. Paragraph 5 to 13, the 2 paths of Raganuga Sadhana and the position of Manashiksha. So here Maharaj is giving a hint that following these external rules is only part of principles, is part of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. But Mahaprabhu has come to give us Raganuga path. Raga Marga Bhakti Korite Pracharana. Rasika Shekara Krishna Parma Karuna. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 4th chapter, verse 14 and 15. The reasons of Mahaprabhu's descent is mentioned. So now let us go into this next theme from paragraph 5 to 16. It is actually. Let me change this. It's 5 to 16 and this is 1 to 4. Okay. So up to paragraphs 1 to 4, anyone has any questions? You're free to raise your hands. Okay, so let's now go to this. Please hear this attentively. We have gone through this quite exhaustively in our theme of study of the importance of Manah Shiksha. So something like that, Maharaj will be building his theme while discussing. There are 4 schools or sampradayas preaching Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and teaching how it should be followed. In contrast, Lord Chaitanya said that he came specially to teach how to develop the kind of attachment that eternally resides in the heart of the residents of Vraj. Raga Marga Bhakti Purite Pracharan. Lord Chaitanya set the example. He cried in Gambhira and spent sleepless nights listening to the bhajan sung to him by Ramanand Rai and Sarup Damodar Goswami. It was actually Sarup Damodar Goswami who taught this kind of attachment, because the Lord instructed him by saying, teach others. So please remember, in the previous theme, the main topic was how to develop attachment. So this attachment raga is only taught by Mahaprabhu, even in the 4 sampradayas. Our sampradaya is very unique, the Gaudiya sampradaya, the Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya. And it is not a 5th sampradaya, it is the essence of all the 4 sampradayas. And Mahaprabhu taught it by crying day and night. And Mahaprabhu taught it to Sarup Damodar. And he said, teach others. Give them a chance to satiate themselves. This is what Mahaprabhu said. Paragraph 7. Our tradition, which Lord Chaitanya founded, is composed of 2 schools of thought or 2 trends, explaining in a slightly different way the method and principle of developing this attachment. Now here what was spoken was 4 schools of thought or sampradayas. This is the Brahma Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, the Kumar Sampradaya, and the Sri Sampradaya. Now here also Maharaj is mentioning that our tradition, the Gaudiya tradition of Lord Chaitanya, has 2 schools of thought or 2 trends, 2 paths of how to develop attachment. Now, which are these 2 paths? We have discussed this, but I would like to hear. Within the Gaudiya Sampradaya, to develop attachment, which are these 2 paths? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Which are these 2 paths? What about others? I would like to hear from others also. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Those 2 paths are there, external and internal. And,
External and internal. Any other terms you have for them?
it was Bahi Pantha. Bahi Pantha.
Bahiranga Panta. Antaranga Panta. Any other terms? The esoteric path and the exoteric path. The exo means esoteric means, yes. This we had discussed in our beginning importance of Manah Shiksha. There we had discussed this. One of the schools originated from the instructions initially transferred by Sarup Damodar Goswami to Vakreshwar Pandit, who was one of Lord Chaitanya's personal associates in Navadvip and later in Puri. Vakreshwar Pandit in turn transferred it to Gopal Guru Goswami, and Gopal Guru Goswami transferred it to Dhyan Chandra Goswami. Vakreshwar Pandit's disciple was Gopal Guru Goswami, and Gopal Guru Goswami's disciple was Dhyan Chandra Goswami. This is the path called Bhairanga Raganuga Sadhana. It is Raganuga Sadhana, please remember. Panta for developing rag attachment. So within Raganuga sadhana, there are two divisions, the Bhairanga and the Antaranga. The practice of to develop attachment by means of external methods. In this school, Swarup Damodar explained the way we can develop attachment by worshipping deities. So how to develop attachment by worshipping deities? Gopal Guru Goswami and Dhyan Chandra Goswami wrote a detailed manual, Paddhati, of how to worship Krishna with attachment, what mantras to chant, how to treat the Lord, how he should be imagined, how to meditate while worshipping deities. In other words, they translated the language of Archana into the language of Rag, the language of attachment. So this is how the Ragamag, especially the Bhairanga Pantha, is there through deity worship. Now, many devotees, especially here in Vrindavan, sometimes without having the adhikar for deep bhajan, and that means they have not developed so much taste for bhajan, they worship deities and they try to imitate this deep attachment what they have for the deities by doing a lot of deity worship, but they exhibit and they show that they have deep attachment and that bhav for the deities. But I would like to say here very clearly, and it is my observation being here in Vrindavan, that this kind of attachment for the deity and showing this kind of bhav can only manifest when we have deep attachment for chanting the holy names. So I have observed that many devotees do deity worship and exhibit this kind of bhav, but when it comes to chanting, they are not able to focusly chant the holy names. And sometimes they are slack in their practice of chanting the holy names. So that's not a right indicator. So we have to be very, we cannot artificially try to exhibit this kind of mood or deep attachment to the deities without having strict sadhana in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and with the purification of the heart. So that's the point I would like to make. The other school goes back to Swarup Damodar Goswami from the instructions he gave to Raghunath Das Goswami. When Raghunath Das arrived in Puri, he finally escaped from household life. He addressed Lord Chaitanya through Swarup Damodar. I do not know my duty or the goal of my life. Therefore, please personally give me instructions from your transcendental mouth. Now, Raghunath Das Goswami approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he approached through his secretary. This is very important. He did not directly approach the Lord. Lord Chaitanya said, I don't know. I'm just thinking about Krishna. There is no sadhana to speak of. I'm just crying for Krishna day and night. How can I explain it to you? But if you insist, I can tell you in a few words. And then Lord Chaitanya spoke one verse which explained the fundamental principle. He said, Amanina manad ahana Krishna nama sadalabe Rajera da Krishna seva manasiye karibe. Externally, we should be humbler than a blade of grass. Amanina manada ahana, without an ounce of false pride or the desire for honor. Amanina manadina. So this Trinadapi Sunichina verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in his Shikshashtaka, is the stage of Nishta. So somebody who's at the stage of Nishta and somebody who's chanting Namabhas, he is always taking the name Sada Nama Leve. Krishna Nam Sada Leve. So I was making this point, if you remember just now, that he doesn't have taste for chanting bhajan, but in his deity worship He's doing it, but he's exhibiting this kind of mood and bhav in his deity worship as though he has very deep attachment and he has attained the spontaneity, that external method which I mentioned, the Bhairanga sadhana path, Raganuga sadhana path. But we should see whether he's Sada Nam Labhay, how attentive he is while chanting the holy names. Only then we can serve Radha Krishna in our Manasya, in our meditation. So this is the point. In addition, Krishna Nam Sada Labhay, we should chant the holy name. Sada, Sada is mentioned. Please mark that. Paragraph 11. We have often heard that we should be humble, and sometimes we walk around bearing a yoke of humility, which lies heavily on us. We are, carrying that yoke of humility, which is very heavy, because naturally we are not heavy, humble. That's why we are carrying that, We walk around harassed and oppressed by this humility. We have been told more than once that externally we should be chanting the mantra, but we think everything internal will come automatically. But the school of thought that originated in this verse is about what should be happening in our heart. Mahaprabhu is explaining what should be happening in our heart. Lord Chaitanya explains it in the next line of the verse. Vraje Radha Krishna Seva Manase Karibe. Within your mind, you should render service to Radha and Krishna in Braj. So this kind of service begins only at the stage of Raganuga Bhakti. Tishte Vraje. As Rup Goswami also in the Updeshamrit, he says, Tanna Marupa Charita Disu Kirtanano. That verse. Smartyo Kramena Manasi Niyojya. I'm not able to recollect text 7 of Updeshamrit, text 8 of Updeshamrit. Ishtan Vraje Tad Anuraga Jananugami Kalam Nait It Upadesha Saram. Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtanano Smartyo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishtan Vraje Tad Anuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayet Akhilam Ityopadesha Saram. So when we have that taste for chanting the Lord's name, the form, qualities, pastimes, the kirtan is anu. Anu means continuous. Sukirtan, chanting and discussion. Anusmritya, the remembrance is gradually going to higher levels. And Manasa Seva, when engages the mind also, and one is situated in Braj, and following these Ragatmika Bhaktas, and you're following their footsteps, and one should utilize his time 24 hours, Prabhupada says here. So this is what is happening in the heart. This is what is happening in the heart. But what that means and what should be happening in our hearts is not an easy question to answer. Lord Chaitanya then told Raghunath Das Goswami to ask Sarup Damodar for details. So to come to this point where the mind is serving Radha and Krishna, there is a Sadhaka Deha and the Siddha Deha. In the spiritual body, it is serving Radha and Krishna. So we can imagine only one who is self-realized at the stage of Nishtha and develops spontaneous attraction for the eternal associates and following in their footsteps, practicing his Raganuga sadhana, his mind is pure and he is qualified to do this Manase Seva Karibe. So this is, bhakti performed deeply from the soul and the heart. This is the point which is being made. Certainly, externally, we must be humble. Externally, we should try to offer respect to one and all, not expecting it in return. Externally, we should chant the holy name, but bhakti is not a mechanical process. We need to think what should be occurring in our hearts. That science is what Raghunath Das Goswami explains in the Manah Siksha. So you know what Manah Siksha now deals with. Of course, the external activities have an effect on the internal, but deep internal, whatever is happening, manifests externally also in the form of humility. So in the beginning stages, we don't have the soul is not humble. That's how I would put it. And we should practice humility at the bodily platform. That when we see seniors, we offer dandavats. Although the false ego is troubled, why you should bend down. The mind is revolting. But because, it's a rule that we are new devotees, we should offer obeisances. So we carry the yoke of humility, the heavy burden of humility we are practicing. Slowly, internal transformation is happening because of the external activity of offering dandavats to the deities, dandavats to the spiritual master. But deep inside in the heart, when the natural humility of the soul develops, then externally also with body and with mind, we offer dandavats. So how to do that internal transformation of the heart is what is the science which is taught by Raghunath Das Goswami in Manah Siksha. How wonderfully, Maharaj is bringing these points, how systematically and logically. Okay, paragraphs 14 to 16, prelude to verse 1 of Sri Manah Siksha. So now, any questions regarding this entire theme, what we discussed? And I hope you were able to follow the whole discussion. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Okay, so now let's go to the next theme. In his first instruction, Raghunath Das Goswami says, "Oh my brother, my dear mind, I am offering my obeisances to you. I am taking a very humble position. Aiswantar Bhratus Chatubi Abhiyache Dhrita Pada." So this is the last line of the verse. I am taking hold of your feet and I humbly pray to you. Please give up all your pride. Sadha dambam hitva. So when we humbly approach a devotee and request, can you please do this service? That really attracts the heart and we can win over the devotee, and that's how we can win their minds. So that same thing, Raghunath Das Goswami is using that same approach to our own minds. He is approaching in a very humble way. Sada dambam hitva. And he's telling, please give up pride. Okay, paragraph 15. He then says, I pray to you, O mind, try your hardest to develop attachment. So what is he praying? Now the theme is how to develop rag or attachment. So he's praying to the mind to develop attachment. The reason for this instruction is contained in the first two lines where he enumerates to whom and to what we should develop our attachment. Aiswantar Bratus Chatubir Abhiyachet. I'm pleading. Now the mind will ask, yes, Baba, what are you pleading? Give a pride. Oh, you want me to give a pride? Then do what? Develop attachment. Attachment to what? Guru, Goshte, Goshtaleshu, Sujane, Bhusuraganu, Swamantre Shri Namne, Vraja Nava Yuva Dwanda Sharane. So develop these attachments. So that is there in the first two lines. So here Maharaj is bringing out that Guru to Sri Guru, Goshte, Vrindavan, Goshtaleshu, to the residents of Vrindavan. Sujane means devotees. These are Uttamadhikaris, these are Madhyamadhikaris, and the Brahmanas are Kanishadhikaris. They are called as the Bhu Sura Gane. Bhu means earth, Sura means Lord, Gana. Gana means the set of Brahmanas. So Brahmanas are literally gods walking on earth because they impart the knowledge of the Vedas. Swamantri means our own Diksha mantras. Shri Namni is the holy name. Vraja Nava Yuva Dwanda Sharane, the shelter of the lotus feet of Kishore, Kishori. Okay. Next paragraph. Each word or phrase carries an important message which helps us to have a clearer idea of how we should chant the holy name and perform devotional service. So each of these words have very deep meaning of how to develop this attachment to Guru, Goshte, Goshtaleshu, Swamantre, Shri Namne, so that ultimately that love will manifest in Vraja Nava Yuva Dvanda Shavrani. And our love for Radha and Krishna is not different for the love for all these, because they are all Tadiya. So we had studied that. So each of this phrase will be now discussed by Maharaj. Okay. Now this is a long theme which is going to start now from paragraph 17 to 45. Because it is the mind which Raghunath Das Goswami is pleading that you become free from pride and develop attachment to these things. So Maharaj first addresses the mind. So because Raghunath Das Goswami is addressing his own mind, of course Raghunath Das Goswami is a perfected devotee. Through these instructions, he is giving sadhakas a means by which we can address our own minds. Now here on, we begin, which is a long theme now. Now, any questions up till now? The previous theme also. Anyone has any questions? Okay, there is one question. There are two questions. Okay, three. Okay, let's take one after the other. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, in paragraph 12, there was a mention, Braje Radha Krishna Seva Manase Karibe. So in this regard, this indicates purely Raganuga Bhakti.
Yes.
So in that state, the devotee, he doesn't do, deity worship and all?
He does the deity worship. And that deity worship is not just out of rules and regulations, but out of spontaneous attraction and deep attachment for the deities. So his deity worship is more on a more elevated. He is performing with his, heart, you can say. Whereas a Vaidhi Sadhaka, even when he's performing the deity worship, he's engaging his body, but sometimes his mind might not be engaged because the mind is still not controlled. The mind might be wandering here and there. But for a Raganuga sadhana, his mind is controlled, and that's why his deity worship is, imbued with deep attachment and love. There is a lot of difference between the two levels. I hope it is clear.
Thank you, Bro. Thank you very much.
So Vaidhi sadhakas should worship deity so that they can purify the mind, chant the holy name attentively, and then go to that higher level of deity worship where it is done with spontaneity. Okay, Krishnapad Prabhuji. No, your audio is not clear. No.
You were saying about Trunada Pisuni Chetna.
No, I think the internet
Is it clear now, Prabhuji?
now it is.
Haribol?
Yes, yes.
Haribol. Is it clear?
A little better.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, yes.
Prabhuji, you were saying there is a burden that we carry about Trunada Pisuni Chena.
Yes.
So practically, I also feel that burden, especially when we get irritated by non-scriptural behavior around us, or when actually we see somebody as lower than us in practice, to keep the humility practically with that person for a prolonged period of time sometimes irritates us. So how do we handle that?
So basically what Maharaj is first saying is that you have to understand that Maharaj is explaining that initially we bear the yoke of humility. We do external practices of humility, but internally our hearts are not humble. And that's why it becomes a burden. So, but these external practices should have internal effect. And Manashiksha instructions go deep in the heart. And when the heart is genuinely humble, then externally also these actions, in fact, they are very, very transforming and they have a deep effect on others. Now, in our dealing with devotees, we see that, what is happening externally also has an effect internally on us. So if we think that we have genuine humility, then we can tolerate those situations. But when we can't tolerate those situations, that means we lack humility. So although we see some behavior which is not according to the Shastra, but that will expose us also, that when we are not able to tolerate that, that means we also lack humility. So instead of working on others, let us work on ourselves. Let us work on ourselves. So this is very important. And that's why Narad Muni, in his instruction to Dhruva Maharaj, he mentions that one sees a very elevated personality, he becomes very happy and he wants to stay in his association and serve him. But one who meets his equals, he develops a deep friendship with him. And one who is junior, he has compassion and he tries to uplift him. But in the conditioned stage, when one sees somebody elevated than himself, he becomes envious and jealous. Why is he having such a big position? Why is he having so many followers? And among equals, he tries to show off how he is superior. And, for the juniors, instead of compassion, he exploits them. So that's how he experiences Adi Bhautika Klesha in the association of devotees. Otherwise, there is no Klesha in the association of devotees. So Manashiksha instructions are meant for oneself, and we have to work internally on ourselves. That's the point. Yes, Ras Parayan Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The verses and all the study that we are doing, the application of those things, I mean, it seems like a lifetime process, or maybe many lifetime process for that matter. Till now we have heard that even if we chant the holy name, just casually, even if we read the holy name, chant the holy name, still the holy name has its own effect. And we also have heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that even if you are in a position where you cannot remember the holy name at the time of death, but if you have chanted, then I will see to it that you remember. I'll come and whisper in your ears and all that. So there
No.
is.
Can you go a little slowly and a little loudly, more clearly?
So whenever we chant the holy name,
Chaitanya has said, what is it?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I remember I had heard that in the lecture that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked, I think even when Varadaraj was asked that if at all we chant the holy name in our lifetime, but at the time of death, we cannot remember for some reason or the other, then what? The holy name. So that time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that if you have done your duty to chant the holy name during the lifetime, at the end of your life, I will see that you remember. I will
That's
whisper.
Varadaraj said, Varadaraj.
Varadaraj had said that I will whisper it in your ears.
Yes,
So when we hear all this, when we are in bhakti, there is a lot of hope that because chanting offenselessly is, at least to me, it is impossible.
We
There
should
is
not make that statement. We have to endeavor. Now, basically, when Varadaraj is saying, or Mahaprabhu is saying, the most important point for us to understand is that we do these activities with all our heart. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. You remember me and fight. Mai arpit manobuddhi. Mam evashasi asamshaya. Krishna saying in 8.7 of the Bhagavad Gita. Mai arpit manobuddhi. You're mechanically, moving the fingers and vibrating the mouth, but the heart and mind are somewhere else. The intelligence and the mind, our heart is somewhere else. Then that becomes more mechanical. So Krishna is not saying for them, Mam eva shesi samshaya. There is no doubt that will come to me. So our practices should go deep and internal. And somebody who has practiced like this throughout his life, then Krishna will, at the time of death, even if he is not able to remember, Krishna will remember him, because throughout his life he has practiced remembrance of Krishna. So that is the point. So we should not take it casually that, just by doing some external practices, just, trying to chant mechanically, it will not work. And mechanical chanting will become a rote, and you'll not feel like, you'll not feel any taste. And if you don't have taste, then you cannot continue with your practices. So one has to go deeper, and that's why Manah Shiksha instructions are there for that.
So, Prabhuji, my question is that I agree to your point, and we are always endeavoring for a sincere chanting of the holy
A
name.
little loudly, please.
We are always endeavoring to chant sincerely and have the remembrance of the Lord, but maybe due to material attachments, we are not able to do so. But we are, even when we are chanting, we try to get our mind back to Krishna all the time. So in this endeavor, when we are learning Manah Shiksha also, and we understand the deeper aspect of transformation, so that also seems to be such a long process. So in this lifetime, suppose we are not able to progress that much, so then but our desire is strong to transform ourselves. So in that case, do we really get the benefit? I mean, because transforming our mind to such a level that we are discussing now, it seems such a difficult process.
So first thing is that when we hear these instructions, most important is that we take it in a right attitude, in a positive attitude. Yes, this is the exalted level which is expected. I am here somewhere, but I should be positive. Yes, step by step, if I practice these principles in my own life and start applying, gradually the change will come over a period of time. And then slowly, whatever the scriptures promise, whatever the Shastras promise, it will start turning into a tangible reality. Otherwise, if we don't know that this is the standard and we think, whatever level we are, if we stay there and we will cross, then we are in illusion. So we have to have a clear understanding that if this is what, it takes to, come to Raga Bhakti, then this is what the commitment we need to give. I'm not able to give now, but I at least have this understanding. So once that Sambandha Gyan itself is there with you, then slowly, slowly you will put it into practice over a period of time. And then slowly, slowly, as you put it into practice, then the results will start coming. So one should take this with a very positive attitude, with the right attitude, and then things will happen, definitely.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji. Yes, yes. Thank you.
There was one more hand raised. Sunita Mataji had raised her hand. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
I had this question that Manasi Seva, just now you explained, I got the answer of it, that the Seva performed by one's mind and soul and heart altogether.
Mm.
But does this also mean the Mansi Seva which was performed by the Pratishtanpur Brahmin?
Yes, yes, exactly. The Pratishtha Brahmana, he was just sitting in the bank of Godavari, and in his mind, he was, collecting all the waters, in his mind, he was bathing the deities and then dressing the deities, performing the arti, and then offering the bhog, and then, all this he was doing every day regularly. And such deep was his meditation and absorption that once, when he had lit the fire and cooked the sweet rice, and he was supposed to offer, so he just touched in order to see whether it is, the sweet rice has to be cool. The more cooler, the more sweeter it is. So when he touched and it was hot, so he burned his finger in his meditation. When he came out of his meditation, he saw actually his finger was burned. And there Narayan smiled, and Lakshmi could not understand why is Narayan smiling. So Narayan decided that, I will not give the answer. He called this Brahmana, and the Brahmana explained what happened to Lakshmi Devi. And now this Brahmana was where? He was in Vaikuntha already. So this kind of absorption of service, he was already living in the spiritual world. So that is the point, that ultimately we have to come to this point of Raganuga Sadhana. And in Raganuga Sadhana, there is deep meditation in our chanting, deep meditation, doing the activities with our heart, not just, the physical activities, engaging our senses. So that is why what is happening in the heart, that's what, Maharaj's, whole theme is in the first few paragraphs which we are seeing. So then only there is deeper transformation happening. So those who are 10, 15 years in the movement, they want this kind of a transformation to see. They want to go deeper into bhakti, and Manashiksha instructions are important at that point. So, okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. But I just wanted to know at what level can one start this?
Now, as we discussed in our, I think, when we discussed Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary, that Manashiksha instructions are at all levels. Somebody who is at the beginning stages of faith, it helps him to understand that, I should develop deeper attachments to Vrindavan Dham. And we see anyone who has taken to devotional service within few months or a year, when he comes to a yatra to Vrindavan or Mayapur, he becomes attached to these holy places, and he's more inspired to practice his bhakti. And somebody who is taken up to Ananya Bhakti, for him, how from the beginning stages of Ananya Bhakti to go to the higher stages where he can become free from the anarthas, it helps him. And somebody who is now crossed the anartha nivritti stage and wants to take up to Ragana Bhakti, for him, these Mana Shiksha instructions are more practical. But for all three levels, Mana Shiksha plays a role. That's why initially when you read Mana Shiksha, no, you might not be able to understand and relate. Maybe many times you have to read. But especially when you hear Mana Shiksha and then read it, then you will start understanding it a little more. So like that, our understanding of the Shastra also goes to different levels with our elevation of Krishna consciousness. The more elevated we are in Krishna consciousness, the deeper understanding of the Shastra comes. So in the beginning stages, we might not be able to understand these instructions, and sometimes we might feel these instructions are not for me. But the sadhakas, it will help us to more to go towards Ananya Bhakti. And those who are in Ananya Bhakti, in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, it will help us more to go towards Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And these instructions can be applied at the stage when one is at Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. But for the purification to happen also, these instructions are also important. So at all three levels, it plays a role. Is it okay?
Yes, thanks so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we will stop here. We will not start addressing the mind today. We'll start addressing the mind from tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai. Shri Mana Shiksha ki jai. Hare Krishna.